Hello, and welcome to The Goddess in Art, a cable TV series dedicated to the creative power of the goddess and to the oldest and most enduring tradition in art, the goddess in art. My name is Starr Goode. Over the past few years on this program, I've interviewed artists who work in the tradition of goddess art and scholars who are researching and documenting this ancient tradition.
This queen of the heaven and earth and underworld.
Yeah, exactly that. The triple goddess is really a kind of medial figure who stands between human women and the great energies and patterns of the universe, so that when a woman contemplates her, she goes transparent. The triple goddess becomes a transparent image, and a woman is able to see the identity between the rhythms of her own body and the great rhythms of the universe.
I'm also interested in the goddess as the guardian of the mysteries and kind of what draws us into the realms of dreams, waking and sleeping images, that haunting that calls us under the door of rationality. I'm fascinated with the process of sleep in my work, and also the goddess as a container. In fact, to me, the goddess is a great bed, a great comfortable bed.
The goddess is the earth, the ground of all being, and the source of all life.
As I said, I identify with Artemis as the mother of all creatures, and also, very importantly, the killer, the taker of life. She's the huntress. She is not a goddess of sweetness and light.
And we shall classify today her into four major classes. Well, one is she is the life giver, then she is death wielder, then she is a regeneratrix, and then she is also fertility, earth fertility. So the name fertility goddess is just representing one aspect of her. And she is much more than even mother or great mother. She is probably more than mother, because in some aspects she is not mother. And then all other terms applied to her are really not accurate, and especially I don't like the fertility and the Venus. Venus, Paleolithic Venus is not right.
And calling it the spirit of the goddess was important, because that's what we're working with, the spirit. And therefore, I decided to create a temple, and a temple to the goddess and to the female, and to show what I had been feeling all along, the exuberance, the joy of life, the energy.
I need you to really be a priestess and to get in trouble for this.
Well, I call myself a priestess because to me it expresses a full part of what my life is. I do practice the religion with a group of other women. There are 8 of us. We're all artists, and we meet together to celebrate the rituals of the seasons and to learn more about ourselves and the skills necessary for a goddess culture. I also call myself a witch.
Aha.
And I think that that's important because in so doing and reclaiming the word witch, we identify ourselves with 9 million people who were killed in the Inquisition, at least 80% of which were women and children, and reclaim women's right to be powerful, to take back our own power, to see ourselves as strong and able.
My dialogue is not with other arts so much as it is with my internal growth and my whole life involvement. And I really am interested in that integration of all of our parts of life into a sense of wholeness, which is something I think we desperately need in our culture.
And if there's one thing that I would like to say about the goddess, is that the goddess is for everybody.
Thank you, Charles.
We see her not only as the muse, as the source of creative inspiration, but as that very creative power herself, the power, the universal power of creativity. And in what Robert Graves calls a simple, loving declaration, none greater in the universe than the triple goddess.
The earliest known goddess art was created over 30,000 years ago in Paleolithic Europe. This is a tradition that existed, that continued for tens of thousands of years undisturbed. We find the goddess carved in caved walls or sculpted in hand-sized figurines. And often in the ancient world, we find her as the bird goddess. The bird is one of the earliest, if not the first, symbols used by artists to represent the spirit. For the bird travels in all worlds. It travels on the earth, it travels in the sky, and it travels in water. This art, this goddess art created by our ancestors, is a religious art. It's a creative expression of deeply felt spiritual beliefs. The snake figurines, the snake goddess figurines, they honor the snake which shed its skin and renewed itself to live again. Such art celebrates the great cycles of nature. The iconography of the goddess as a snake or as a bird or as other animals is with us from the beginning of art up to the present.
Maria, it seems that the goddess and creativity go hand in hand. All throughout Paleolithic and Neolithic Europe, we see goddess art. It's just found all over. And in your last book, you refer to the goddess as the incarnation of the creative principle, as source and giver of all. Why don't you tell us a little more about this goddess? Who is she?
She is certainly not Venus, not beauty, not a wife or a bride of male gods. She is a creatrix. And she is extremely versatile. She appears in a variety of forms, because we must understand that in early times the goddess was the unity of nature. She can appear as a stone. Her power is in a stone or in water or in trees or in flowers and animals and birds, and therefore she appears as a bird or as an animal or as an anthropomorphic being. Also, it must be remembered that this is a very long period of time. She ruled at least from the Upper Paleolithic, when we have a lot of material, but she probably was there much before, maybe 1 million years ago.
This enormous function in what you said, like the source of life, the creative principle, and embodying everything, creation and destruction. She just takes it all in.
She is actually the nature. She is cosmos. She is everything. And for us, it's probably difficult to imagine that in earlier times, there was such an intimate contact with nature, because we are divorced from it.
Right. And I think we'll see in the art, too, this profound feeling for nature and the sense of nature. And, of course, these people are needing to sustain life in the sense of depending on these forces, and really this love of the goddess, knowing their life comes from her.
Yes, of course. I think that we shall see the slides, and then we shall understand maybe more what this goddess is, because we also have to understand what kind of art they produced. The art is very much related to religion, to their very, very deep beliefs, communally sanctioned beliefs. And the art is abstract. It's not a naturalistic art. So that is also one of the major problems why the Paleolithic and Neolithic, which means agricultural period, goddesses are not yet understood.
Yes, because they think that they couldn't draw it better or something, whereas really, or sculpt it better, whereas really they had a very sophisticated, abstract sense of things, and we're dealing with symbols, and we're really dealing with very creative human beings.
We are dealing with symbols, with the deepest beliefs in symbols, actually, and this is a conceptual art. We have to understand that, because otherwise we cannot understand. And also we have to know more of mythology and ethnography. Archaeologists to this day, they just are interested in material culture and not in the spiritual culture. Even reconstructions of our ancestors, for instance, Upper Paleolithic cave dwellers, are portrayed as barbarians, which is not right. They are not barbarians. I think maybe we are barbarians. But
so again, we see these different animals are seen as epiphanies, or representations of the goddess, and again, this connection to all of nature.
Always epiphanies, always epiphanies.
We find ourselves in a much different world than the Paleolithic and Neolithic artists who created the first goddess art. In the last 5,000 years, history has given us the great patriarchal religions, the Greek pantheon, Judaism, Christianity, and these religions gave rise to other artistic traditions than the goddess. But still, they used the earlier goddess tradition, much as they tried to destroy it. Still, as I said before, the thread has never been broken. And as the goddess reemerges in contemporary art and in contemporary times, we see artists building on and expanding the tradition of the goddess in art.
What's unfortunate is Christianity really separates, not just Christianity, it's really Western civilization, Western culture, separates the flesh and the spirit, or the matter and the divine. And what I believe, and what I think is the message of the goddess, is that the matter is divine, that they are one and the same. And I think that we really get in trouble as a culture if we think of those as separate. You know, we're supposed to attain the spirit. That's our goal as Christians. And to attain the spirit, you need to lose the flesh. It's only through your death that you will attain the spirit, and this is the ultimate goal. But if you don't believe that there's an inherent divinity in matter, then I think it's sort of the root of all our problems, because how can you love and care for the earth? How can you care for women? How can we really care for each other if we don't see that divinity in each other?
I, who am the beauty of the green earth and the white moon among the stars and the mysteries of the waters, I call upon your soul to arise and come unto me. For I am the soul of nature that gives life to the universe. From me all things proceed, and unto me they must return. Let my worship be in the heart that rejoices, for behold, all acts of love and pleasure are my ritual. Let there be beauty and strength, power and compassion, honor and humility, mirth and reverence within you. And you who seek to know me, know that your seeking and yearning will avail you not unless you know the mystery. For of that which you seek, you find not within you. Utterly simple. I will be with you when you die. Say what you will, we shall never be finished.
Once again, this is a process thing. I wanted to have Camille photographed with myself for some documentation as I worked with her. And Cy, my husband, put some black paper up on the wall and put some lights on us to do these photographs, and I felt the exhilaration and excitement when this happened. And I said, you know, as we work, there's something that's very special.
One of the themes I see in the creations of artists working in goddess art today is that of wholeness, how to take in all of life. In the ancient world, the goddess was sculpted as life, as death, as regeneration, the whole of life. She was identified with all of life, not with just one aspect at the expense of another. And in seeking wholeness, the work of creative and contemporary artists expresses the feeling that the dark is part of each and every one of us. The goddess isn't, you know, just the beauty and creativity of things, but she does have her dark side. She does, you know, the taking in being these from these different aspects often is death, too. Like the cat does kill the bird. It's not like you just put a little pink bow on your cat, or it's a cat.
And taking that cycle within ourselves and realizing that we hold all of those aspects instead of projecting those things that our society or culture defines as bad or evil in a dualistic way out onto other things and apart from ourselves, I think is a very important aspect of goddess culture.
Yeah, the next image is by Michelangelo, The Three Fates, and this is another black goddess who has been broken down into three aspects. This is Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. And in Greek mythology, they are the ones who determine the length of lifespan. And Clotho spins out a thread of one's life, Lachesis measures it, and Atropos, she who cannot be denied, cuts it, and that's one's death. And this image remains very potent even in the later art of Europe.
Yes, and of course we see her in Shakespeare's plays, Macbeth, the Three Fates, and I think it's known as the Eumenides there, and how she presides over one's fate. In a certain way, they're sort of the flip side of the muse, aren't they? That sense of, you know, that last aspect of the destruction rather than the creation and the visitation of life.
Very much so, and the Eumenides are an interesting figure as the flip side of the muses who inspire, because they are the defenders of the matriarchal order, and they punish those who offend against that order, which is why they went after Orestes in the famous Greek play. So yes.
He killed his mother.
That's right. He committed the ultimate matriarchal crime. Right.
I just really wanted to have a raw, primitive effect here, but again, it's that same image of the light embracing the dark. And this one is kind of like grotesque looking, but that's what was there. That's what came out. Some of them are grotesque, some of them are ugly, but they all kind of, for me, they move me.
I think that one of the hardest aspects in confronting the goddess or in life is confronting the dark aspect, the unpredictability of things, that we don't really know what's going to happen, that we, you know, in our human consciousness, we're not running the world here, running the show. And I think that's one of the things that's so important about your work, is to put the dark forward, to put, you know, because that is an aspect of life and we can't ignore it. And that face of the goddess, of all her faces, I think is the hardest to take in.
This is the dark, devouring goddess, and this is the culmination of the past work that I've done. This was the last painting that I did. To me, this is the darkest of the dark.
And on the other hand, sometimes pieces have tapped into very dark spaces, and you know, not always elevated high places, but very, very dark and deep places, and beautiful at the same time because of their incredible power.
At the beginning of this program, I stated that this TV series is dedicated to the power of creativity and its expression in the artistic tradition of the goddess. One of the primary subjects of goddess art is the human female body. The female body is seen as a metaphor for the divine body of the goddess and its powers. Her power of creativity resides in the sacred vulva and nourishment in the breasts. And not only does the body of the goddess create and sustain the universe, but it is the very substance of the physical world. And since she is everything, everything is holy. Looking at this art tonight, I think we've really seen the goddess traced through, you know, we've seen like some very, very ancient things, and looking at it in the contemporary times, in these strong contemporary images, we really feel a reclaiming of the power and the sexuality and the spirituality of the female body. We really see it in a lot of these contemporary artists, and in that reclaiming of our past, there seems to be a new mythology emerging, some new associations going on. And what do you see this new mythology as, and why is it important for us? I mean, what's it offering women?
Oh, it's offering not only women, it's offering all of us, men, women, and children. It's enormously important because our very survival as a planet and a race is dependent upon our being aware of the interconnectedness between all things, and that, which is what the goddess is about. The interconnectedness between human and earth, and between the rocks and the trees and the plants and the animals. And so that this iconography helps us to make these connections. Another thing that's so important about this is the honoring of female bodies and female sexuality, because there's a direct link between the raping of the earth, the despoiling of our environment, and the raping of women, violence against women. It's important that we re-sacralize female sexuality, human sexuality. This will help to heal the rift, the breakdown in relationships between men and women, and all the pain that has caused us all.
Yes, and that was something I wanted to emphasize too, is healing the war between the sexes. It isn't just so that women, you know, can dominate now or assume some sort of power or hierarchical thing, but more an egalitarian thing, more of a healing thing, and to enhance the relationships of all things, not only humans to nature, but men and women too.
It's not about dominance. It's about the life force that is inherent, that is part of every woman's body, every woman's biological inheritance, is a life force that is to promote all of life and for all of us.
Thank you for watching, and good night.